Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight's edition of Studio Night Online. Today's class is going to be on Adobe Lightroom. And in particular, what I'd like to talk to you guys about is understanding collections and how we can use collections within our workflow. So, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out and joining me. I see a lot of new faces, and hopefully you're joining me from maybe the North Haven Camera Club. Yes? Awesome.
Yep.
From some of the comments I've heard back, I take it a lot of you really appreciated me going a little bit in depth into exposure with the lecture I gave last week. So I want to thank you for joining me tonight, and hopefully you'll become regulars of my Monday night workshops. All right, the way it works is I am running these free workshops Monday nights. The first Monday is, like tonight, it's on Lightroom. The second Monday is on Photoshop. And then the third Monday is kind of like an open Q&A where, I'll usually pick a little topic to talk about to kind of spur the conversation and then open it up to whatever questions you may have, whether it's on camera, on lighting, on editing, whatever it is that you happen to be having issues, go ahead and ask it, and I will try to answer it for you. There's a couple of things also now that the pandemic has settled a little bit here and the quarantine is starting to ease up. People are now starting to get out a little bit more and enjoying, still maintaining a certain social distance, but at least getting out and getting involved with quote unquote normal activities as far as, how we define normal in the post-COVID environment we find ourselves in. That being said, a lot of the live workshops and live club meetings, as you understand, have been shelved, in order to maintain a certain safety, for our health. But now that the overall, spread has kind of, like, as they say, the curve has flattened out, it's time to start thinking about getting out into a social environment. And I'm planning a couple of things for this summer, geared around being able to be involved in the group, but yet being able to maintain a certain distance, and respecting social distances. And one of the things that I'm in conversations with is with the Hartford Amateur Photographers Club that meets online through Facebook. And we're thinking about getting out and doing a little workshop, an impromptu workshop, you might call it, on architectural photography, and if we could fit it in, some street photography along with it. So if you are a member of the Hartford Amateurs Photography group on Facebook, just keep an eye out, because Robert and I are in conversation about getting something started. If not, I will definitely be posting it through my Facebook group, which is Learn Photography with Duck. And I would really invite you to go ahead and join that as well. That way, you can be informed when I put these little workshops together. The other workshop that I do every year is what I call a multiplicity workshop. And that's where we go out and we pair up in groups of two, And what we do is we set a scene where we photograph, you photograph yourself in multiple locations within a scene, and then in Photoshop assemble it into a single unit, a single photo where you are in multiple positions. This is a fun event that a lot of people really get into, simply because it helps you utilize several skill sets, not only just behind the camera, but in front of the camera, and also in the editing as well. So you get to be the director of your scene, you get to plan your scene, and you get to be the main actor within your scene. And then finally, you get to edit that scene into a complete image. So it really stretches your ability as a photographer, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm hoping to do that at least a couple of times this year throughout different points in Connecticut. All right. And I also started a Patreon page. If you really appreciate what I have to teach, and you want to show your support, I invite you to check out the Patreon and become a supporter that way. But it's not needed. Okay. So anyhow, let's get into today's lesson. What I want to do is discuss Lightroom, get a little bit into the Lightroom catalog, how it behaves, and understand how we can use certain aspects of Lightroom in order to create a workflow for specific tasks. And in this particular situation, it's utilizing collections for projects. Okay. So first of all, what is a collection? A collection is simply, think of it like a photo album where you're pulling images from various sources that are centered on a specific theme or a specific project. So, for example, let's say I have a friend of mine who every year his pet project is putting together a calendar that he then gives out to family and friends, and people can buy it, within his little community. So what he does is throughout the year, he takes very specific images that he knows he's going to be using for his calendar. So the ability to be able to pull images from various dates across the year in order to have a working folder without having to constantly, go from folder to folder makes it a little bit easier to work on his project without it being all over the place. All right, so where are my slides? All right, so to start off, how many of you, and you can, and if you want, you can just kind of like wave your hand at the screen as a means of saying yes. How many of you use Lightroom as your main editor? Okay. How many of you have Lightroom but never really used it and is here to figure out how to use it? Fred and Terry, okay. All right. So let me just start off with a little description of what we can utilize. First of all, Lightroom is a There, my microphone just turned off automatically. All right, I'm going to have to keep an eye on this. This is going to aggravate me to no end until I figure out what's causing it. But put up with me. So Lightroom is a content manager as well as a photo editor. All right. If you have used Photoshop, and in particular the Adobe Camera Raw aspect of Photoshop, then you are familiar with Lightroom, because Lightroom is Adobe Camera Raw, and it kind of like a self-contained program. But along with that, we have the added benefit of having a content manager. And what I mean by content manager is that it is a program specifically designed to keep track of all your image assets, as long as you do it properly. All right. So, if we look at this little diagram, the typical workflow is you go out and you take your pictures. All right. So number one, take your pictures. All right. And as soon as you come in, you take all those pictures and you download them into your computer into a folder, which resides on your hard drive. Okay. From there, you'll import those images into Lightroom. All right. And in particular, the Lightroom catalog. Okay. Now, all the catalog is think of it like an address book that points to where all your images reside on your hard drive, all right, in their individual folders. And the catalog tracks this by creating an index. And in the index, it also maintains all your editing information, as well as a preview of what your image is. Because hopefully all of you are shooting raw. Yeah, okay? Slapping a hand if you're not. Raw images cannot be viewed on their own. They need to be converted to a viewable format. And Lightroom will do that by creating a JPEG preview in order for you to be able to view it within the program and be able to edit it. All right, so it creates these two things, but it does not duplicate your physical file. What it does is it creates a pointer to where that file resides. Okay, and this is where a lot of people get hung up, because they think if they move it from where it resides, Lightroom will understand this. All right, it won't. As soon as you physically move it without telling Lightroom, Lightroom will break, and Lightroom will not find your image, and it says, "Hey, sorry, I can't help you. You got to reestablish the link." So my suggestion moving forward is, if you ever need to move images, always move them through Lightroom. That way Lightroom always understands where they live, where they reside. Okay? All right. And, all right, so how do we use collections? Well, the collections on the root is basically just a virtual photo album that collects images from various sources on your system in order for you to work on a project. All right, and that project can be, maybe you're putting together a photo book for your family and friends. You went on vacation and you want to, create something tangible as a little reminder, all right? Or maybe you want to gift them, okay? Or like my friend who makes calendars. Or maybe you want to just, be able to print them out for framing. Or maybe it's for a very specific job and you need to have a collection of images for your client. Or it could be as simple as, hey, I want to be able to share a specific set of images on social media. The one thing that all of this shares is that it's a collection of images that are coming from multiple folders. And that's where the collections come into play. So, because Lightroom is a content manager, it has some built-in tools that allows us to locate images. All right. The most common one that we understand as a search criteria are keywords. All right. As long as when you are bringing your images in, you are actively tagging your images with keywords, which you should, then you'll be able to find your images just through a simple keyword search. So let's say you want to put together a calendar of rose pictures. You're going to type in your search. You're going to, for the keyword rose or roses or however you keyword it. And then from that, you're going to make your selection of 12 images to include in your calendar. Okay. The other criteria, of course, it can search for are flag statuses and star rating and color statuses. All right, these are statuses within Lightroom that allows you to sort through. Now, typically, what I do is when I teach a workflow, in my particular workflow, the first thing I do is I cull my images and I separate the shaft from the wheat. All right, and that basically means that the images that I want to edit, I want to separate those from the images that I don't want to edit because of one reason or another. They were either seconds, or I was working to get my exposure, or working to get my composition, or it was, as often happens, an accidental shot of something that I didn't want to take. So I'm going to move those out of the way. And I need some way of being able to determine which ones I want to use and which ones I don't. So the first thing I do is I give it a flag rating. If I flag it, it means that I want to spend time editing it. If I don't flag it, then it goes and moves into my seconds folder. Okay. Additionally, I can layer other criteria onto it, and I usually do this with color tags. And the colors, for me, mean certain specific things. I usually, like for example, I will reserve the color green for when I am completely done editing and I get the image at a point that I am very happy with. So at a quick glance at my grid, I can see which images I have finished editing and which ones still need editing. Okay? And of course, this is just my way of doing it. You can use the flags and the colors and the stars any way you want. Me, for some reason, I very, very rarely use stars, simply because they're not as evident on my screen as flags and colors. Okay? But that's just me. So these are criteria that we can use within our own workflow to categorize and sort our images. And once they are in place, they are something that we can use the search ability within Lightroom to search for those criteria. So I can say, hey, I want to search for all the roses in my library that it's not just roses, but roses that have been edited that have the color green. All right, and I can say maybe even that were taken within a certain date range. So the searchability is quite powerful within Lightroom. Okay. Now the problem is, let's say I want to put together that calendar of roses. Every time I open up Lightroom to work on that project, I don't want to have to create this search over and over and over again and try to figure out, which images did I work on? All right. If I have 100 pictures of roses, I know I want to distill that down to the 12 best. Okay. But I don't want to sift through 1,000 roses all the time. So I want to make my life a little bit easier by creating a workflow that allows me to keep track of where I am within my project. Okay. Make sense? All right. So one of the things that I like to do is use keywords to kind of organize myself. All right. Now, before I explain this, let me just very quickly explain collections. Okay. Like I said, collections is just a collection of images that reside. Let's see. We'll use this one. That reside through multiple folders in your system. Okay. And there are two types of collections. One of them is a regular collection, meaning that once you set up the collection, you have to manually tell Lightroom, hey, I want this image in this collection. All right. So you have to manually move it into a collection. The other type of collection is an automated collection, or how Lightroom likes to call it, a smart collection. And this is where Lightroom will automatically add elements into that collection based on a preset criteria that you tell Lightroom. Now, there are pros and cons to both. Me personally, I love the fact that I can create smart collections, and then at any time I can just make one little modification to my image in order to guarantee that it goes into the smart collection without me thinking about, I gotta take this and move it to this collection. All right. And then the last one is just collection groups. All right. So just think of it as a folder where you can keep all your albums. Okay. All right. So one of the ways of being able to navigate through your collections is to, like I said, to set up a smart collection and utilize pre-existing tools in order to get that image into your smart collection. All right, and for this, we need to understand a little bit about keywords because it utilizes keywords to create your collections. There are two types of keywords that I typically use. Okay, one is what I would call just a regular, generic, everyday old keyword, which is basically just a descriptive word that identifies the content of your image. All right, so going back to the roses, all right, let's say I am at the Rose Gardens up in Hartford, all right? And I spend a day there, and I take tons and tons of images, and I distill them down to maybe 25 of the really, really best, all right? I'm going to tag all of those with very specific keywords. One, what the location is. All right, it's the Elizabeth Rose Gardens, Hartford, Connecticut. All right, so these are what I call global keywords that apply to the entire photo shoot for that particular session. So Elizabeth Gardens, Hartford, Connecticut. All right, and then while I'm there, I may be taking pictures of not only the roses, but maybe some of the people I'm with. Maybe I'm there with family. I'll take some family photos. All right. Maybe I see somebody who's got a really fancy car out in the parking lot, and I decide to take some pictures of the car while I'm there because it presented an opportunity. All right. I'm not going to label those pictures as roses because they're not pictures of roses, they're pictures of cars. All right, so these tend to be very image-specific keywords. All right, so when I ingest them, I will give them my global keywords, and then as I'm working through, I will key tag very specific keywords to very specific images. All right. So going back to our example, I distill them down, and I have out of a couple hundred images, I distill them down to 25 pictures of roses that I really like. Right? So I'm going to label those roses. Very general, very generic. Right? If I'm really into it and I want to identify the specific rose, you can go ahead and tag those as well. If there are pictures of maybe there's a butterfly in one of the rows, I will key tag it with the keyword butterfly. So later on, if I decide to do a calendar on butterflies, that picture will come up. Hopefully that makes sense. All right. Now here's where we get into the second type of keyword. These are what I call reserved descriptives. And these are reserved for very specific tasks. Okay, and I'm going to show you a few examples. Actually, you might even see here on the side, I have some reserved keywords in my keyword list. All right, and they start. Here, let me zoom in. All right, and they start with, in this case, an exclamation point. Okay, and then if we look down, I have some with the @ symbol. Okay, here's one with a double @ symbol, and so on. All right, and then down here, just above my head, are hashtags. All right, and hopefully you're all familiar with hashtags. All right, so these are descriptive words that register something in my brain to kind of like remind me what that hashtag is for. All right, but the differentiator is the symbol I place in front of it. All right, whether it's a pound symbol, whether it's an @ symbol, whether it's an exclamation point, and you can use whatever you want. If you want to put $signs in front of it, if you want to put the ampersand, a plus sign, you're going to pick a symbol that equates to a specific task. Okay, like for example, I'll usually use a hashtag if I want to create some type of collection. All right, that to me tells me, because it borrows from what we're already familiar with in the real world. If you have an Instagram account, if you have a Facebook account, you're familiar with the term hashtag. And a hashtag in social media is a way of being able to take sources from multiple locations and be able to single location. All right. And my microphone went off again. Holy cow, this is funky. All right. So hopefully you understand what hashtags are. All right. So the way we're going to use it, all right, is I'm going to create a smart smart collection. All right. So let's go over how to do this. All right. Just turn that on. All right. In the library module, all right, in the library module, over on the left-hand side, you have your catalog, folders, collections, and published services. All right. So what we're going to deal with here is just collections. All right. And if you don't see where it says filter collections, if you don't see that showing up on yours, all you got to do is right click. Where is it? Right click anywhere in here, and let's see where. Okay, here it is. Show collection filter. All right, so you can click on this little plus symbol, or if you click on where it says collections. Oh no, just on there. Okay, show collection filter. All right, that will allow you to filter through your collections if you need it. Okay. All right, and what we see here is a collection. It's a collection group, a smart collection, all right, and that will usually be displayed with a little symbol like a cogwheel, all right, and then a regular collection, all right, and a regular collection does not have the cogwheel, all right. The other symbol you're going to see here is a book, and this is when you're using the publishing, the book feature of Lightroom. It will also display here as well. What we're going to be concentrating on today is the smart collections and the regular collections. Okay. All right. So in this particular case, I have a smart collection called Art Portraits. And the way I put this collection together is it's a smart collection, meaning that I told Lightroom, whenever you see this particular keyword, I want you to add it into this collection. All right, and if we look over on the right-hand side, where I have my keywording, you're going to see that the first one says hashtag art portrait. Hashtag art portrait. All right, and what that is that it's a reserved keyword that I use that lets Lightroom know when it's attached to a very specific image, it's going to automatically add it to this collection. Right? Now, if I go to here, right, here's another collection that I started a while back that I never really did much with it, right? But this is what you might want to call a dumb collection, meaning you actively have to add images to this collection. All right, and we'll go over the two in a second. All right. In order to work with collections, all right, let's say I am in a regular folder. Just okay. Here's some images that maybe I want to use for my portfolio. Okay. I have a portfolio smart collection, right? And it says, okay, well, I want to add this particular image to my portfolio. And let me just delete that. We go to collections here, and here's portfolio images. Okay. And these are images that will, that are currently in a portfolio rotation on my system. All right. And you will notice that there's no pizza. All right. Simply because I removed it. But there's no pizza. All right. So let's say I take that photo and I decide that I want to add it to my collection. All right. So as I'm sorting through, I've distilled my 150 shots down to the 2 best images. I go ahead and edit it. In this particular case, I started editing in Lightroom and finished editing in Photoshop. That's why you're going to see this as a TIFF. Okay. So also you notice that it's got the green border. This lets me know that I am done editing. All right. In this particular case, I actually gave it a yellow border in order to stand it out from the other 4, because that's the one that I like the best. Okay. So visually, when I look at this grid, all right, although it's simple, it's only got 5. Well, it's got 3 images. 2 are duplicated, but 5 images. At a very quick glance, I can see just by the use of the color what is what. All right. So this image I want to use for my portfolio. Okay. So I can come here and I can go where it says click here to add keywords. Right. Hashtag portfolio. And you'll notice that as I start typing it, because it's already in my system, right? Keep an eye here, right? Because it's already in my system, it's going to automatically fill it in for me. And all I have to do is, once it fills it in, just hit enter, and it adds it into my keyword list. That image is now tagged with that keyword. And it's a very special keyword. And the reason I know it's a special keyword is because I'm using a reserved symbol, which is the hashtag. So now when we go back to our collections and I go to portfolio images and scroll down, we'll see that my pizza image is now inserted into that collection. All right. So this becomes a very organic way for me to move through my collection of images. And at any point, something clicks in my brain that says, hey, you should put that in your portfolio. I can just start typing the hashtag portfolio, and I know I don't have to do anything beyond that, and it will automatically be sent to my portfolio collection. Okay? So it's a very easy way of organizing. Now, if you notice in this particular collection, I have a wide array of images. All right? I have some food, I have some people, I have some products. All right? All of these are located in different folders throughout different years of my Lightroom catalog. I don't need to physically remove an image, set up its own folder, and move that image into the folder in order for me to keep myself organized. Though I'm seeing that in this collection here, they still reside in their physical space on the date and year that I. Oh, thank you.
Your mic went out again.
Thank you. What was the last thing you heard? I wasn't monitoring you. What was the last thing I said that you heard?
Actually, I'm not sure because the lawnmower started next door.
Oh. Okay. Well, let me back up a little bit. So basically, this collection is a series of images that are spread out throughout my library. All right. We have images that are from many years ago to images that were taken just a couple months ago. And they all reside in their own individual folders on my hard drive. All right. But the use of this collection allows me to pull in from various sources without disturbing those sources. So back in the day, before Lightroom, if I wanted to create a collection, what I needed to do was create a new folder, label that folder according to what the collection is, go back to the folder that contained the image that I wanted to add it into that collection, make a duplicate of that photo, move that duplicate to the new folder that I created for the collection in order to be able to have those images within the collection. Now the problem became is if I decided to go back and re-edit those images, I would then have to remember, is it in a collection? And if it is, I would then have to make a new copy of it in order to replace the one that's in the collection. So it was very awkward. All right, this ability to create virtual collections eliminates all of that. I don't have to track who did what images I worked on, who did what, when, where, or why. I know that if I make a change to the original, it is going to be reflected in the collection because the collection is simply pointing back to the original. All right? So hopefully that makes sense. Okay. The other type of collection is just a regular, like I call it, a dumb collection. Okay. Now, the way this works is you have to make the conscious decision of adding it into your collection. So let me go back to all right. Let's say I wanted to take one of these images and I wanted to where's my let's say I wanted to take this particular image and add it to a collection. I could open up my collection and say, all right, I want to put it into this one that says shelling up close. I could click and drag over, and it gets added, manually. Okay. The other thing you can do is, if you know that within, your workflow at the given moment, you're looking to make a collection and you're sifting through, you can tag any of these as a default collection. All right. And the way you do that is you right click and you say set as target collection. All right. And you will know it's a target collection because at the end it's going to add a little plus symbol. All right. So let me go ahead and remove this out of my collection and go back to my folders. Okay. I go back and I say, I want to add this image, right? And let me just give it a quick color label just so we can identify it easier. All right, I want to add this image to that collection that is currently active, my default collection. A quick way of doing it is just hitting the letter B on your keyboard. And what that does is it automatically sends it to, automatically sends it to the active collection. Okay? So that is a way of being able to move through very quickly as you're culling your images. All right, you might want to say, hey, I have a project that I just shot for. Okay, I want to be able to separate certain images for a project that the client immediately needs images for. All right, so you say, okay, I have a bunch of images that I'm going to cull through. Some of these I'm going to edit, but I'm going to edit next week. However, there's maybe 5 or 6 images that the client needs right now. All right, so as you're going through and you're taking, the 300 images you took, culling them down to 100, you're going to say, oh, this is one of them. Hit the letter B. It automatically sends it to that collection. You go through, you pick. Oh, here's another one. Hit the letter B, automatically sends it. So now, as you've gone through your culling process, you've done 2 things. You've separated the images that you're going to edit. If you could do me a favor, just mute your phone or your microphone, whoever's phone is ringing. Whose phone just rang? If you can mute your microphone, that'd be great. Well, guess what? Your microphone's working.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Awesome. Okay, thanks. All right. So that allows you to move through your collection very, very quickly without having to really worry about hashtags or smart filters or any of that sort. Okay? So there are times when having a dumb collection comes in very, very handy. Okay? All right, and then once you have that collection, you can do whatever it is that you need to do. All right, and think of it as part of a overall workflow. The nice thing about collections is that they can be long-term for like long-term projects, or they can be short-term for maybe a client project. And then once you're done with that project, you just get rid of the collection. All right. So it's very versatile. All right. The other thing is you can take multiple collections, the combination of smart collections and dumb collections and put them together into a group, right? And for example, I have one that a group that I call portfolios, and within that I have several different types of quote unquote portfolio collections for different purposes. Okay? I have my Adobe stock portfolio, and I have my website portfolio. I also have a portfolio of very specific images on DeviantArt, and I have another portfolio on Unsplash. And of course, I have a smart collection for selfies that I take in order to use for my advertising and when I teach. All those banners that I create, advertising the workshops, I take those right here, I dump them into this collection, and I know anytime I do a selfie session, it's going to end up in this collection. I don't have to go back searching through my entire catalog. Oh, when was it that I took that selfie? I have it right here. I can look through and I can just grab an image anytime I want. Okay? Here's one that, this one here, Smart Collections, all right? This one contains Smart Collections that came pre-built in Lightroom. All right, so if you open up your Lightroom, you're going to see some of these that you have. All right. For example, there's a Smart Collection here called Without Keywords. Okay. And yes, even though I'm always saying you should keyword your images, as you can see, I don't always have the time to keyword all my images. So this is a great way of being able to find some downtime, come into this pre-built Smart Collection that comes with Lightroom, and you can say, oh wow, all of these need to be key tagged. And the nice thing is that you can go ahead and click multiple images and go ahead and automatically key tag them, all right, and move on, all right, and you can go through your whole entire collection, all right. There's another one for video files, all right. I have some video clips throughout my library. This allows you to find them all, and it comes pre-built in Lightroom. Ones that were recently modified. All right, so it searches by when was the last time this your image was modified. Okay, you can do by date. You can sort through your catalog by date. Which ones are the most recent images that I took this past month? Here they are, all in one location. Okay, you can create collections based on how you rate your images, all right? It comes pre-built with a 5-star rating one, but you can very easily modify this or create a new one that says, hey, I don't want the 5 stars, I want everything that's got 4 stars. Or I want everything that's labeled green, or everything that's labeled blue, okay? I know one photographer who, he's a sports photographer, and what he does is he uses color labels based on where his images went for publishing. So he can very simply, easily do a search based on a color label and get a response back of which images went where based on his color labels. So it's a great way of being able to control multiple images across multiple folders across multiple years within your catalog. Okay? All right. So that's a pretty broad overview. So let's go ahead and create a catalog, a smart catalog. All right. So here's some butterflies. I'm going to go ahead and call these butterflies. All right. And I'm going to create a smart catalog, or I'm sorry, smart collection based on the keyword butterfly. Okay, so we're going to go here to where it says collections. All right, we're going to click on the plus symbol, and you have the option to create a regular collection, create a smart collection, or create a collection set. All right, so what we're going to do is create a smart collection. All right, and the first thing it asks you is, what do you want to call your collection? All right, so we'll call it Butterfly Pictures. Okay, and then it's going to say, all right, do you want to put it inside a collection set? Meaning an overall folder where other albums are located in. All right. In this case, I don't. I just want it to be standalone. But you can very easily, create a collection set of, let's say, animals. All right. And then within that collection set, you have a collection of deer, a collection of birds, a collection of insects, whatever it is that you want. Okay? And then the bottom part is where the magic happens. This is where you specify what conditions Lightroom needs to look for in order to build this smart collection. All right? So the first thing is, what are we searching for? All right? And in this case, you have the option of any, meaning, all right, so these are what are called Boolean parameters. All right? And what that means is it's going to look for certain specific search terms, and it's going to say, I want any of these terms that you're giving me. If 1 out of 3 matches, I want it included. All right? Or you can say, I want all 3 to match in order to be included. If one of those 3 does not match, it does not get included. Okay? Or you can say, I don't want any of these to match, which I don't know. All right. So I want, in this case, any of the following rules. All right. And then now we go and we declare what it is that we want Lightroom to search on. The first parameter pulls information from different sources. It pulls information from any keywords that you enter, any rating statuses that you enter, like flags, stars, colors, right? Any metadata that is automatically appended from your camera. This includes file names, the dates, what lens you used, what camera you used, what aperture setting, what focal length, any of these, all of these. If your camera has GPS, where was it taken? All right, you can even declare very specific areas based on GPS locations. Okay. You can also search on whether it's got some kind of develop editing. Okay, if it's got adjustments, if it's been edited, if it's got any developed presets, if it's been cropped. All right, so you can really fine tune your search criteria for these collections. All right, normally, unless you're the kind of person that really likes to micro adjust things, normally you're just going to keep it fairly loose and broad. All right, not so loose that it gets junk in there, but your criteria filters out the stuff that you don't want while keeping the stuff you do. All right, so in our case, we're going to go to our metadata. All right, so we'll go other metadata. All right, now let me just take a little sidestep about metadata. All right, metadata is any information that is added to your image file. It resides with your image file besides just the picture. All right, so your camera automatically adds a certain block of metadata, which is called the EXIF information. EXIF, which off the top of my head I can never remember what it means, but it basically contains, like I mentioned earlier, file name, date, if you've got GPS, where it was taken, what lens you use, what exposure settings, did you use a flash, all that information. Okay? Your camera also has the ability to program it through the menu, your copyright information. And I strongly urge, if you've never looked at that information, you should open up your camera and edit your copyright information so at least it tags it with your name. Okay? So it pulls that information as part of the EXIF information. Additionally, anything that you do within Photoshop or Lightroom or any other editing program, sometimes what it'll do is when you edit, it's going to modify that metadata. All right. So, for example, dates. The EXIF information logs in the date the image was created. And then as soon as you open it up in Photoshop or Lightroom, it adds the date you edited that image. Okay? Lightroom, Photoshop, ACDC, Elements, a lot of, even your file, if you have Windows or Mac, your File Explorer, if you add stars, a star rating through any of those programs, it gets logged into the EXIF information and travels with the picture. Right? With Lightroom, if you make a color label or a flag label, that does not travel with it. Right? But so it's not part of the metadata. All right? It is part of the information within Lightroom, but not part of the metadata. All right? Additionally, there is an expanded form of metadata called IPTC information, and it's located, you'll see it here, IPTC. All right? And this is just additional metadata that you can add. It's a user database that you can modify if you have descriptions, your copyright information. Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right. The IPTC metadata is a database that you can modify. All right. You can add things like a title, a description, your extended copyright information. Like you could put in a phone number if you want people to be able to call you about your rights. a link to your website, all kinds of information. And this is all accessible through Lightroom if you need it. All of these fields are searchable within the search bar, and they're also catalogable and searchable through a collection, right? So in this case, we're going to go to other metadata, keywords, right? So we've established our first criteria. What is it that we're looking for? We're looking for keywords, all right? The second criteria is it contains, our search criteria contains all right, contains words, or does not contain. So we can even rule out certain things. Okay, starts with, ends with, or is empty or is not empty. Okay, so that, like for example, that default smart collection that about your images that do not have keywords, it's basically using this. All right. Is it empty? If it's empty, add it to this collection. Okay. So in this case, in our case, what we're going to do is we're going to go contains, and in this case, what is it we're looking for? We're going to go butterfly. Okay. That's the keyword. All right. And you can have multiple keywords. Okay. And you can have multiple criteria. All right. Just click on the plus symbol and you can add additional criteria. In this case, we're just going to keep it very simple. We're just going to simply search through my entire catalog for anything that has been tagged with the keyword butterfly. And then we're going to go ahead and hit create. Okay. And here we have all our butterfly pictures. And I know I have more than that, but I guess I've never tagged them. Okay. So alright, so what I'm going to do here, just for example, I'm going to take some of these, alright, and I'm going to give it a color. Alright, this one's already got stars. Let me go, this one's going to have 4, this one's going to have 3, alright. If we go back to our collection and we right click, we can edit any of these criteria at any time. Okay? So in this case, what I want to do is I want to edit it, and I want to add another criteria, all right, to this label color that is green. Okay? And I'm going to hit save. All right. All right. And now you're going to say, whoa, wait a minute. What's going on here? I see more images. Okay. The one thing you have to keep in mind is that Boolean modifier. All right. So let me open this back up. Edit Smart Collection. All right. This Boolean parameter right up here, all right, match any of the following rules. So the results that we're seeing here is it's looking through my collection and it says, if you come across a picture that has any of the following, it's labeled with the keyword butterfly and has the color green, put it into this collection. All right? But that's not what I want my collection to do. I want to collect butterfly images, only butterfly images that are only labeled green. All right? So what I need to do is I need to change my Boolean to contain all. All right? And let's see if this works. All right? So that Boolean condition is important in order to build an effective smart collection, right? And the nice thing is that, as you saw here, if you got it wrong, Lightroom will let you know, and then you can very easily go in and fix it. Okay? And you can do as many criteria as you require in order to distill your collection down to exactly what you need. Okay? All right. At this point, let me take a quick break and ask if anybody has any questions. And go ahead and unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. No questions? Okay. All right. So now, to work with what I call a dumb collection, right? To work with a dumb collection, I have to actively be conscious of what it is that I want to add into this particular collection, right? Because I cannot rely on Lightroom to automatically do it for me, right? Because in this particular case, Lightroom doesn't care what you put into it. There are no conditions to be met. The only thing is you have to physically move it into this collection, right? And like I demonstrated earlier, you can click and drag into that collection, or you can use the shortcut key in order to move it into the currently active collection. And you need to make sure that whatever collection you're working with is currently active by setting it as the target collection. Okay? So if I want to make my butterfly pictures the currently active collection, I could just, oh, no, you can't. That's right, because it's a smart collection. Dumb collections. Set as target collection. Okay? You cannot set a smart collection as a target collection. Alright? Alright. As long as you see that little plus symbol right there, as long as you see that plus symbol, that'll tell you what your active collection is. Alright? And then if you need to reorganize your collections, you can very simply say, okay, I'm going to add a collection set. It's going to ask you to give it the name, my collection. Okay. And of course, you can nest these. You can have collection sets within other collection sets. In this case, I don't want it, so I'm going to make sure this is unchecked. I'm going to say create. All right. And there's my collection. So I can then take this and click and drag. I can take my butterflies, click and drag, and now I have a collection set with very specific albums. So you can keep yourself organized in a logical way through collection sets. Okay? Alrighty, hopefully that gives you an understanding of collections, how to set them up. We set up a smart collection, so let's do a quick, just a regular collection. Right? Again, you can right-click, create collection, or you can go up here to the plus symbol, create collection. Right? And we're just going to create a regular collection. Okay. Another collection. Right. I'm going to put it within my collection set called my collection. Right. Now, when you are initially creating this, you can highlight specific images in in your work area and say, I want you to include these selected images. All right. In this case, I don't. All right. And you also have the ability to set it as a target collection. All right. Because usually if you just create it, you're going to also be working with it. So it makes sense to go ahead and click on that. So that way you can use the shortcut key to send images straight into that collection without thinking it. So we're going to go ahead and create this. Right? Now, as I am going through my folders, all right, let's see. I want this image to go into that new collection. So I'm going to use the shortcut key, the letter B. All right. So I want these to go into that new collection. I'm going to use the shortcut key, the letter B, to automatically send it. All right. I have it selected. Hit the letter B, and you can see it automatically sends it. So I'm going to say, okay, well, here's another image, letter B, automatically sends it. Here's another image, letter B, automatically sends it, and so on. So very quickly, you can move through your catalog and send things to that new collection. Once you've done that, we go back to our collections. Here's the one that's active, the one that I just created, and there are the 3 images that I just sent to them. Okay? All right. So that's pretty much it for collections, both dumb and smart. Okay. So if anybody's got any questions. Oh, and if you need to, in this case, I'm done with it. I'm just going to go ahead and delete my collection. Okay?
That last collection you set up, you called it a target selection?
Correct.
And that was, I guess I didn't catch how you set it up as a target.
Okay. All right. So there's a couple of ways. Yeah, there's a couple of ways. All right. When you first initially create a collection, all right, you can set it as your target collection. All right, just by checking the little checkbox. All right. If a collection is already established and you want to now work on it some more, you just go to it and say, I want this collection here. It has to be a dumb collection. Set as target collection. Right? So, right click, set as target collection, and then you'll see a little plus symbol. That plus symbol is a visual indicator that that's the active target collection. Right? And then to add it to your target collection, all you got to do is hit the letter B on the keyboard. Right? So when you're in your active catalog, right? You're in your where is it? When you're in your active catalog, you can just click on the image, right? Make sure it's selected, and then hit the letter B. You can think of it B to bookmark it, okay? And it automatically sends it to that collection. So if I open it up, here's that image just added, okay? If you want to remove something from a dumb collection, all you got to do is hit the delete key, and it will remove it. It does not delete the image from your library. It just deletes it from the collection. All right? And as you saw, there's no warning, so be careful. Okay? for a smart collection, if you want to remove an image from a smart collection, you just really have to change the criteria that it's searching on, okay? Or alter, like for example, in this case, the criteria for this collection is anything that has the term butterfly and the color green. All right. Jill, could you do me a favor and just mute your microphone? We're picking up a lot of background noise.
Oh, sorry. I'm taking notes.
Okay. All right. So let's say I have these 3 images that came automatically because I set the criteria for both butterfly and green. And I say, you know what? I don't know if I really want this. So all I got to do is just deselect it, change it from green to something else, and it will automatically remove it. Now, the drawback to this is, well, you know what? I don't want to change the color. All right? The green is very specific to a task that I assigned it. All right? And by removing the label green is saying I did not accomplish that task. So I can either live with it or create a new hashtag that is unique to a given project. All right? And that's why I like hashtags and @ symbols and ampersands and exclamation points in front of a real world keyword, because it differentiates it between a project and just a regular image. Okay? All right. So like, for example, my portfolios, all right, I have a hashtag Adobe stock. All right. That's a very purpose-driven, unique indicator that allows Lightroom to add that specific image to this collection. All right. If I don't want that particular image in this collection, all I have to do is get rid of the hashtag. I can keep the rest of the keyword. I get rid of the hashtag, and it just goes into the general population. Okay? Same thing with, any other, here's one where it's got 2 distinct hashtags. It's got hashtag art portrait and hashtag portfolio. That tells me just by glancing at my keywords that it's in 2 smart collections. It's in my art portraits and in my portfolio images. Here it is right here. Okay? So this allows me, again, you see the versatility. One image in some location, somewhere in my library, being used for 2 distinctly different projects. All right? And the smart collection tracks it. I don't have to do squat. As long as I give that purpose-driven collection. All right. Thank you. Good looking out.
I have a question on the hashtag.
Yeah.
I have a question on the hashtag. Can you actually put that on an angle image when you're in a library with a bunch of images? You can just tack it onto one image, or do you have to do it on the keyword section?
Oh no, it's in the keywords. All right. The keyword section is what actually adds it to your metadata. All right. And actually, you know what? Let me let me take a quick little sideline here about keywords. All right, keywords. I don't want to get too deep into keywords because that's a subject of its own, and maybe next month we'll do keywords. But the keyword ability in Lightroom is also very powerful. Right, the utility itself is pretty robust. Okay, so in the library module, okay, on the right hand side you have all these panels. Your histogram, your quick develop, and then you have two that are dedicated to keywording. One is where you can enter your keywords, right? And then the second one displays your keyword list. Every keyword that is in your you can see that when you start keywording, you're going to have Thank you. When you start keywording, you're going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of keywords. Right? Now, there are certain, not criteria, but there are certain formats that I use for keywording in order to keep things simple for myself. For example, I normally do not use plural. I will always use the singular because there's a difference between bird and birds. Right? Those are two totally different keywords. All right? So in order to keep things simple, I will often use the singular, even though there may be birds in my image. All right? Even though there are multiple, there will always be a singular. All right? But if there's a singular, that doesn't necessarily mean that there will be multiples. So by removing the multiples out of the equation, I just kind of keep things simple. Right? Sometimes I forget them. Right? But the nice thing is, let me go back to where my keywording. Here is where you can manually add in. All right? Rather than hunting through your list to say, oh, do I have that keyword already used? All right? I can just go ahead and add them here. And as you start typing, Lightroom will give you a list of, it'll try to figure out what it is you're trying to add. And it's going to give you a list of selections. And it says, oh, are you trying to write the word butterfly? Are you trying to word bubble? What is it? All right. And as you start getting closer, you can then use your mouse and select the appropriate one, or you can use your arrow key to navigate through the list. And then when you're ready, you just hit the enter key, and it automatically adds it into your keyword list. I'm going to remove that before I forget because he's not a butterfly. Okay? But where the real power comes in is just below this. All right? There's a section called Keyword Suggestions. Right? And this one here tends to change based on the most commonly used keywords that you're using at the moment. Okay? So if Lightroom sees that you're using the word wedding over and over again, it's going to throw it into the keyword suggestion. All right? And it's going to say, hey, last time he was using this keyword, he was also using the keywords bride and groom. So I'm going to throw that in and populate this suggestions field. Right? Now, these suggestions are limited to only 9. Okay? And like I said, these kind of change as you work through your workflow. However, just below that, I'm going to hide this, just below that are keyword sets that you can define. All right? And if you see here, I have one predefined for my smart collections. Right? So I can populate this with the most commonly used hashtags that are associated with my smart collection. So I don't even need to type it in. I can just go over here and say, click on portfolio. Right? And I just remove them. All right? So, let's see. Go put him back in because I just removed him. Here it is. All right, so here it is. I want to add him to my portfolio smart collection. I just go here to my smart collections keyword set that I built. I click on that and it automatically adds it into my keyword list. Okay? And the nice thing is you can have as many of these keyword sets as you want. And Lightroom comes preset with a few of them, all right? But you can make your own, okay? Here's one for outdoor photography. Here's one for wedding photography, all right? Here's one for portrait photography. Okay? So you can, let's see, smart collections, right? You can custom build them for your needs, right? Like I said, you're only limited to 9, but there is no limit to how many keyword sets. So you can have Smart Collection 1, Smart Collection 2 if you run out of space, right? So hopefully that little trick right there makes it a little easier to work with Smart Collections. Okay? All right. All right, any other questions? Okay, here we go. I'm going to add this one to my, this one here to my art portraits. Yeah, I'll throw this one into my art portraits. Okay. And now if I go back to my collections, here's my art portraits, and here are the 2 that I just added. It's as simple as that. Okay? So hopefully this allows you to really understand a little bit more about the power that's inherent within Lightroom in order to organize not only organize your library, but organize your workflow and make it a little bit more effective. Okay. Alrighty, guys. I think I pretty much covered everything I can about collections and how to use them and how it integrates with keywords. Okay. So, any other questions?
If you do any editing in keywords, does it come all the way? Does it accept it back to the original?
The keyword that you use as, if you edit the keyword that you use as your search criteria for your smart collection, yes, it will totally break it. All right. But what are the chances of you saying, hey, I want to change that hashtag to something else? Okay. You can you can edit it, and then you just have to go back and edit your smart collection to reflect the changes. All right, but I've never found myself in a situation where I needed to backtrack and change a hashtag. So, but I'm sure it can happen. But to answer your question, yeah, there are ways of getting around it. Anybody else? Excuse me.
We have a lot of homework to do.
Yeah, sorry about that. I am known for frying brain cells when I give these workshops.
18,000 photos later that had never been marked. I guess pandemic or no, I'll be there till the end of the year working on them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Let me share with you when I teach about keywords, or when I teach about sorting your library, trying to get your library in order. Especially one of the things with people who come in late into Lightroom, who have an extensive collection of images that they just kind of like take and dump into Lightroom all in one shot. And here it is, they have multiple years with nothing ever done to it in Lightroom. It becomes daunting. What I tell people like that is, when you have some downtime and you're listening to the radio, or you got the TV on and you're listening to the news, sit at your computer, put your laptop on your lap, and pick at it. It becomes what I call monkey work, right? Because you'll take a task that is fairly simple to do, that needs to be done, but would otherwise be boring, all right? And just, while your mind is occupied on listening to the news, you can go ahead and sort through, all right? For example, the first thing I would suggest is go through and open up that smart collection that says without keywords. And it's going to go through your entire catalog and find images that do not have keywords. All right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort it by capture time. All right? I don't sort it by file name because file names get reused. All right? You want to sort by when it was taken. That way, your photo sessions are grouped together. Okay? And at that point, you can say, all right, click on the beginning of the set, click on the end of the set, right? And just go through and label them. Okay? So, in this case, Lightroom. Let's see, maybe workshop. Okay, boom, done. There's another one, workshop. Okay, done. And then you're just going to go through and label these. All right, here I have a bunch that are, oops. Back to the top. Yeah, I got way way too many images. Okay. You can just go through and click on a bunch and say, okay, well, these are for a client. Okay. All right, and you can do them in batches. I'm surprised those didn't get tagged. Right. So you can go through while you're listening, and then just, clean up little by little, right? Here's a, headshot. Okay. Here's another headshot. Here's another headshot. All right. So they're getting sorted out, and it's monkey work because you really don't need to put a lot of energy and thought into it while you're doing something else. Okay. Or while you're doing nothing. Here's another art portrait. Okay? And eventually you whittle it down. That's what I would suggest. Okay? It may seem daunting at first, but eventually you do catch on. All right? And then hopefully once you catch up, you're in that frame of mind that, hey, I gotta keyword these as I bring them in. Okay. Alrighty. Any other questions? No?
Another great job, Duck.
Thank you very much, my dear. I appreciate it. All right. If you're not signed up on my Facebook page, please go ahead and do so. I pretty much got rid of my Meetup page. Meetup no longer works for me. It became too much of a hassle. The tools were unwieldy. So everything transferred over to Facebook. So if you want to be kept abreast of what I'm doing, that's where I'll be posting things. Upcoming workshops. These are ongoing workshops. So every Monday night, 6 o'clock, I'll be here. All right. So if you want to join me, all right. First Monday of the month is Lightroom. Second Monday, so that'll be next week, is Photoshop. And the third Monday is general Q&A. All right. Eventually, I will be adding a fourth one. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. What will you specifically in Photoshop next Monday night?
I haven't decided what I'm going to cover yet. I have no idea.
Okay. Thank you.
So the way it used to work when I was doing these live in my studio is people would bring their laptop, we'd open it up, and I would say, okay, what are you guys having problems with? And then we would tackle that. Because if one person is having an issue with it, the likelihood of everybody else having that same issue, even though they weren't thinking about it, is pretty high. So that worked pretty well. In this particular case, because it's a little bit more remote, I found it was a little awkward. So I've been kind of picking a topic to discuss and using that kind of like as a springboard. But I'll usually just ask in the Facebook group that says, hey, what do you guys want to talk about? So if you want to throw in your suggestion right now, by all means, anything in particular you need?
I'll think about it. Yeah, I'll think about it. Maybe send you a little message on that.
Absolutely. Because I'm very open to what we discuss,
Okay.
And then the third Monday is general Q&A. That's pretty much the free for all, and the conversation can be about anything. Composition, it could be about lighting, it could be about what's happening in the news, how do we as photographers deal with this COVID situation was, last month's topic. This month, who knows? And the fourth Monday, currently I don't do anything on the fourth Monday, but that's reserved for when I start getting Patreons. That will be Patreon-only workshops. So we'll see what happens with those.
Okay.
That will allow us to do more personalized mentoring type lessons. So, but that's in the future. Okay. Hey, I want to thank you guys for coming out and joining me tonight. It's awesome seeing you here from the North Haven Camera Club. Hopefully, I will get a chance to meet you all face to face at a workshop in the near future. And of course,
Thanks a lot, Doc. It was very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I learned a lot.
Awesome. Well, let your friends know. Let's see if we can grow this community. Okay. Oh, and like I said, I'm recording this session, and what I normally do is after the session, I'll go ahead and compile it and upload it to YouTube. So on YouTube, just go Learn Photography with Duck, and you'll see this on there as well. Okay. So if you say, "Oh man, I don't think I took good enough notes. I need to refresh whatever it was, or I need to clarify," you can always refer back. Okay. Alrighty, guys.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
even though we're isolated, go ahead and grab that camera and take pictures. Okay. Alrighty, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.